All right, my next guest believes that torture memos prove that we didn't torture. David Rivkin is a former Justice Department official under George H.W. Bush. He's now co-chairman of the Center for Law and Counter of Terrorism at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. You believe that these procedures that we've described here are not torture, is that correct?
Absolutely, and the proof is in the pudding. If you look at these memos that describe, by the way, out of 10 techniques being described in the memo, 9 have been used in the SEER program. And with all due respect to Mr. Morris, one of the key pieces of evidence that the lawyers relied upon is the fact there have been 2 congressional investigations into the SEER program long before 9/11, because Congress likes to investigate how military treats its own people, be it Naval Academy, training accidents, or this type of training. Both congressional investigations gave it a clean bill of health. You had over 40,000 Americans who have gone through this program. Lots of them actually were waterboarded. Not all, but lots of them. There have been a follow-up by psychiatrists.
David,
5-year intervals. None of them found.
David Rivkin, have you ever served in the military?
No, I have not.
So you haven't come close. You for one have not come close to going through this program, right?
Let me read to you. Frankly, would not like to, but that's not the point.
It is the point, because your point is it's not torture. I'm going to read to you what you're trying to tell America is not torture. You tell me that you could go through this and not feel tortured. While I was in the school, I lived like an animal. I was hooded, beaten, starved, stripped naked, and hosed down in the December air until I became hypothermic. At one point, I couldn't speak because I was shivering so hard, thrown into a 3-by-3-foot cage with only a rusted coffee can to piss in. Have you ever lived like that? How many days have you spent like that in your life?
It is not the point. The point is this, that we have done this to over 40,000 of Americans in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. You had follow-up by trained psychiatrists and psychologists, which I have not, who looked at it and said,
we did it to prepare them for torture. It was done to prepare them for torture. That's why it was done.
As a matter of law, it's not a question of... Think about what you're saying. You're basically saying we tortured 40,000 of our own people, but that's okay because we did them to prepare for torture.
I didn't say it's okay. No, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think we've developed useful information as a result of using that program.
I'm talking about
You're the one who thinks this is a great idea.
You just said
never submit yourself to it.
No, you just said that SEER was torture. So under your logic, we tortured 40,000 of our own people. We're full approval by Congress. We're full approval by our military services. Or SEER is not torture, in which case SEER is not torture, neither are these techniques, which, by the way, were quite a bit milder than we've done to our own people. Bottom line is this. You're throwing the word torture around as if every cursive technique means torture. Torture is defined very precisely. Deliberate infliction of severe physical or mental pain and suffering. And for mental, it has to be protracted.
Did you not hear that description of severe pain and suffering, including mental suffering? Pain is subjective.
I can tell you, look, under your logic, everything is torture. Every bit of inconvenience.
No, everything is not torture, David, not at all. You're the defender of torture here. You're the one who's saying, I could take this. You could take it, right? How many days of this do you think you could take?
My personal...
You wouldn't crack under this, right? Because it's not tough at all. This isn't torture, right? You can take it.
And by the way, on the question of does it yield results, why don't you support what the Vice President has called for? There are numerous classified memos, which are, by the way, referenced in the OC memos. There's a memo by CIA Inspector General that goes for 90 pages describing the intelligence stake that was obtained. Why don't we declassify those memos,
David,
and then the American people will be able to see?
David, that's our one point of agreement. I want every one of those memos out.